From squats to squirt, my private session with 3 harny alien clients. The midnight booking. The studio was quiet at midnight, exactly how Dante Reeves preferred it. The main gym on Celestia Prime closed hours ago, leaving only his private training space humming with low amber lights and the soft pulse of the station's life support systems. He was wiping down the last weight bench when his compad chimed with an incoming booking request. 3 clients, late notice, premium rate, anonymous identification listed only as the Kova Sisters, Viridian Sector. Dante hesitated. Anonymous bookings were always a gamble, but the credit transfer was legitimate and generous enough to cover his rent for 2 months. He accepted and sent the entry code, then changed into fresh training gear, a simple black tank top and fitted athletic pants that showed he practiced what he preached. 20 minutes later, the studio door slid open with a whisper of pressurized air. 3 figures stepped inside, and Dante forgot how to breathe. They were alien, obviously, but unlike any species he'd encountered in his 5 years working the station's circuit. Each woman stood roughly his height, with builds that were athletic and curved in ways that made his mouth go dry. But it was their skin that stopped his heart, luminous, jewel-toned, catching the low light like living gemstones. The first woman had skin the color of deep ocean sapphire, her black hair cut short and sleek against her skull. She moved with military precision, shoulders back, chin high, radiating authority that made Dante want to stand straighter. "I'm Senna," she said, her voice low and melodic with an accent that reminded him of wind through crystal caves. "My sisters, Rhea and Kira." Rhea stepped forward next, all confident grace and mischief. Her skin glowed soft lavender, and her silver hair fell in loose waves past her shoulders. When she smiled at him, something electric sparked in Dante's chest. "We've heard excellent things about your training methods," Rhea said, her tone playful but her eyes intense. The third sister, Kira, lingered half-hidden behind the other 2. Her skin was the palest mint green, almost translucent in the dim light, and her white blonde hair hung straight and simple. When their eyes met, she immediately looked away, a deeper emerald flush rising in her cheeks. "Welcome," Dante managed, his professional training kicking in despite his racing pulse. "All right, let's start with a basic assessment. I need to see your range of motion and current strength levels." As the sisters moved toward the center of the studio floor, Dante noticed something else. Their skin wasn't just luminous. It pulsed very faintly with light, like a slow heartbeat. And when Kira accidentally brushed against his arm while passing, her skin released the briefest hint of warmth and a scent like honeyed vanilla. This was going to be a very long night.
The training begins. Dante started them with basic bodyweight exercises, keeping his distance while he assessed their natural movement patterns. The sisters moved with surprising fluidity, their bodies clearly accustomed to physical activity, though their form needed adjustment for human-style training. "Senna, let me see your squat depth," he instructed, watching as she lowered herself with controlled precision. "Good control, but you're leaning too far forward. May I?" She nodded, and Dante stepped behind her, placing one hand lightly on her lower back and the other on her hip to guide the proper angle. The moment his fingers made contact, Senna's skin flared bright beneath his touch, pulsing like a heartbeat made visible. "Sorry," she breathed, her voice strained. "Kovan physiology is reactive." Dante pulled his hands back, but the damage was done. Where he'd touched her, faint trails of luminescence remained, and the air around them had grown noticeably warmer. That honey vanilla scent intensified, making his head swim. "Reactive how?" he asked, though his body was already providing theories that made him adjust his stance. Rhea laughed, a sound like bells that made his skin tingle. "Our bodies produce a bonding essence during physical exertion. It's stronger when we're touched, much stronger when we're touched by someone we're attracted to." The blunt honesty of it made Dante's professional mask slip. "I see." We should have warned you, Kira said softly, wrapping her arms around herself. We can try to control it, but don't, Dante interrupted, surprising himself. I mean, if it's natural for you, don't hurt yourselves trying to suppress it. We'll just work with it. Senna turned to face him fully, and he could see the gratitude and something deeper in her dark eyes. You're not uncomfortable? I'm extremely professional, Dante said, which wasn't exactly a lie, but wasn't the truth either. Let's continue. Rhea, your turn. The next hour became an exquisite kind of torture. Every correction required touch, a hand steadying a wobbling plank position, fingers adjusting the angle of a hip during bridges, palms supporting lower backs during stretches. And with each contact, the sisters grew more luminous, their skin releasing that intoxicating mist until the studio was filled with warmth and sweetness. Rhea was the most openly responsive, arching into his corrections with soft sighs that definitely weren't appropriate for a training session. When he spotted her during weighted squats, standing close behind her with his hands ready at her waist, she deliberately let herself fall back against his chest, coating his shirt with warm, shimmering residue that sunk through the fabric to his skin. Oops, she murmured, not sounding sorry at all. Lost my balance. Kira, despite her shyness, might have been the most affected. During a hamstring stretch, where Dante knelt beside her to guide her leg into proper position, she made a sound between a gasp and a whimper. When he looked up, concerned, her mint-green skin had deepened to emerald, and tears of pure light were sliding down her cheeks. "Did I hurt you?" he asked, immediately, pulling back. "No," she whispered, catching his wrist before he could fully retreat. "The opposite. No one outside our species has ever touched us like this. Like we're not strange. Like we're beautiful." Dante's heart cracked open. He turned his hand in her grip and laced their fingers together, watching fascinated as light pulsed between their joined palms. "You are beautiful. All of you." Senna had stopped her cool-down stretches to watch them. "Dante," she said carefully, "we need to be honest with you about why we're really here." He stood slowly, still holding Kira's hand, and faced the three sisters. Their skin was glowing so bright now that the studio lights seemed dim by comparison, and the air was thick with their essence. His body was responding in ways he couldn't hide, his heart racing, his skin hypersensitive everywhere their mist had touched him. "I think I'm beginning to understand," he said quietly. Rhea moved closer, her lavender skin rippling with light. "We've been watching your streams for 8 months, every late-night session, the way you speak to your clients, the way you see their strength before they see it themselves. Covens bond through physical connection, and we bonded to you through those screens without ever meeting you." "Bonded?" Dante's voice came out rough.
"It's not something we can control," Senna explained, stepping closer until all three sisters formed a loose semicircle around him. "When Covens find someone who makes them feel safe and desired simultaneously, our bodies begin the bonding process. It's biochemical, evolutionary. We produce essence in their presence, crave their touch, need their approval like oxygen." "We tried to fight it," Kira added, her voice barely audible. "We told ourselves it was parasocial, impossible, inappropriate. You're human. You live in a different sector. We'd never even met you." Rhea laughed, but it sounded pained. "And then Celestia Prime announced they were hosting the Cultural Exchange Summit. Our ship was assigned to diplomatic escort. We checked the station directory and saw your studio listing, and we thought maybe if we met you in person, the reality would break the fantasy," Senna finished. "That you'd be different than you appeared on screen, or you'd be repulsed by us, or the bond would simply fail to materialize without the screen's safe distance." Dante looked between the three of them, seeing past the luminous beauty to the vulnerability underneath. They were trembling, all three, their light pulsing erratically, waiting for his rejection. "And instead?" he asked softly. "Instead, you're exactly who we've hoped you'd be," Senna said, her commanding exterior finally cracking. "And the bond is 50 times stronger in person. We can barely think straight, Every time you touch us, we want to melt. Every time you smile, we want to give you everything. It's overwhelming and terrifying, and we're sorry for bringing this to your door. But we had to know." Dante closed the distance between them in 2 strides, cupping Senna's face in both hands. Her skin was fever-warm and impossibly soft, pulsing light against his palms. "Had to know what?" "If you could ever want something like us," she breathed. He kissed her. Couldn't not kiss her. Her lips were soft and tasted like vanilla lightning, and the moment they connected, she made a sound between a sob and a moan, her light exploding bright enough that he saw it through his closed eyelids. Her hands fisted in his shirt, and where she touched him, warmth bloomed through the fabric. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante turned to find Rhea and Kira watching with expressions of naked longing. "I've been fighting attraction since you walked through that door," he admitted, "trying to stay professional, trying not to notice how gorgeous you are, how your voices make my spine tingle, how badly I want to explore every luminous inch of you. But I need to know this is what you really want, not just biology, not just bonding chemistry. You." Rhea moved first, always the bold one, pressing herself against his side and trailing her fingers down his chest. "Dante, the bonding chemistry exists because of who you are. It doesn't create feelings from nothing. It amplifies what's already there. We want you. We've wanted you for months. We want this." "All of us," Kira added, finally stepping close enough to touch his other arm, her hand shaking. "If you'll have us, if this isn't too strange, too much, too—" Dante pulled her in with his free arm, marveling at how perfectly she fit against him, how her mint-green skin complemented Senna's sapphire and Rhea's lavender. 3 alien sisters who'd traveled across space because they'd fallen for a human trainer through a screen, and his human heart was somehow big enough to hold all 3. "It's not to anything," he said firmly. "It's exactly right. But we do this at whatever pace feels safe for all of you, and we talk about what this means. I don't do casual, and if this bonding is as serious as you're describing—" "Life bond," Senna interrupted, her eyes searching his. "If we complete it, if we share full essence exchange, it's permanent. Covens mate for life, Dante, usually in triads or quads. We would be yours, and you would be ours, for as long as we all live." The weight of it should have scared him. Instead, Dante felt something click into place in his chest, like a lock finding its key. "Then let's not rush," though his body was screaming otherwise. "Let me learn you first. Teach me how to touch you properly. Show me what you need." Rhea's grin turned wicked. "Oh, we can definitely do that." Senna took his hand and guided it to the side of her neck, just below her ear. "Here, this spot is directly connected to our essence glands." When Dante stroked his thumb along the indicated place, Senna's knees buckled, and a fresh wave of shimmering mist poured from her skin. Her head fell back, exposing the long line of her throat, and she whispered something in Coven that sounded like prayer. Kira turned his other hand palm up and traced a pattern on his wrist. "And if you touch us here, it tells our bodies you're claiming us, accepting the bond." Dante drew the same pattern on her wrist, watching her eyes flutter closed and her skin pulse so bright that he saw it through his closed eyelids. Rhea pressed back against him, her lips finding his ear. "We should move to the floor mats, because once we really start, none of us are going to be able to stand."
Constellation of touch. The floor mats were soft beneath them as they sank down together, a tangle of limbs and luminous skin that made the studio look like it held a piece of fallen galaxy. Dante sat with his back against the wall padding, and the sisters arranged themselves around him with an intuitive grace that spoke of long practice moving in sync with each other. Senna straddled his lap first, her sapphire skin glowing so intensely he could feel the heat radiating from her. "We've never done this with anyone outside our species," she admitted,
her confidence wavering for the first time. "Our anatomy is similar but not identical. You'll have to tell us if something doesn't feel right for you." Dante ran his hands up her sides, watching the light chase his fingertips. "Same goes for you, all of you. We communicate through this. Understood?" "Understood," they answered in unison, and the harmony of their voices made his chest ache. He took his time with Senna, learning the geography of her body with reverent attention. The dip of her collarbone where essence pooled like liquid sapphire. The curve of her waist where her skin was slightly scaled, each tiny plate parting under his touch to release more warmth. The sensitive spot behind her knee that made her gasp and arch when he stroked it. She moved against him with increasing urgency, her breathing ragged, whispering his name like an incantation. When she finally shuddered and released fully, it was like being caught in warm summer rain made of starlight. The essence coated them both, sinking into his skin with a tingling sensation that felt like champagne bubbles in his bloodstream. Senna collapsed against his chest, trembling, and pressed her forehead to his. "We're ours now," she breathed. "Can you feel it? The beginning of the bond?" He could. Something was changing in his chest, a warmth spreading outward that had nothing to do with physical heat, like his heart was growing new chambers specifically designed to hold them. Rhea didn't wait for an invitation. She pulled Senna gently aside and took her place, her lavender skin already dripping with anticipation. Where Senna had been commanding even in surrender, Rhea was playful exploration. She guided his hands to places that made her laugh breathlessly, then to others that made her moan. She kissed him deeply, her tongue tasting of honey and electricity, while her essence flowed over them both in waves. "You feel so good," she gasped between kisses, "so solid and warm and real. I've dreamed about your hands for months, Dante, dreamed about how you touch me." "Tell me," he urged, trailing his lips down her neck to that sensitive spot Senna had shown him. "Tell me what you dreamed." She did, in gasping detail, and Dante made every dream come true with patient attention. When Rhea came apart in his arms, her light pulsed in rhythmic waves that matched his heartbeat, and he realized the bond was synchronizing their bodies, making them aware of each other in ways that transcended normal sensation. Kira approached last, the shyest, but somehow the most intense. She was shaking as she settled against him, her mint-green skin pale with nervousness and deep emerald in arousal in alternating bands. "I've never," she started, then stopped, biting her lip. Dante cupped her face gently. "Never what, sweetheart?" "Never been with anyone, even among covens. I was always too anxious, too worried about being enough. But watching you on those streams, the way you made everyone feel capable and strong, I thought maybe with you I could be brave." His heart broke and healed simultaneously. "You're already brave. Being vulnerable takes more courage than anything else. And you're more than enough, Kira. You're perfect." He made love to her with extraordinary gentleness, letting her set every pace, reading her responses in the ebb and flow of her light. When Kira finally opened fully to him, her essence was the sweetest of all three, tinged with something that tasted like trust made tangible. She cried through her release, clinging to him, and he held her through every wave while Senna and Rhea pressed close on either side, all of them connected in a circuit of light and sensation. Afterward, they lay in a pile of satisfaction and sticky luminescence, their breathing slowly synchronizing. Dante was coated head to toe in their combined essence, his skin glowing faintly with absorbed light. He felt drunk on sensation, his body humming with pleasure and something deeper, that bond they'd described, settling into his bones like it always belonged there. "Is it always like this intense?" he asked dreamily. "No," Senna said, propping herself up on his chest to look at him seriously. "Bonding intimacy is different. More. Everything is amplified because our bodies and hearts are trying to merge. It will settle eventually into something more sustainable,
but it will always be stronger than typical physical connection. Rhea traced patterns on his arm with one finger, leaving trails of lavender light. Our essence has marked you now. Other covens will be able to sense our claim, and your body will crave us the way ours crave you, not painfully, but noticeable. You'll think of us and feel warmth here. She pressed her palm over his heart, and here, she touched her solar plexus. Connection points. Kira nestled closer, her earlier shyness burned away. We've complete the permanent bond soon, before we have to leave for our assignment. Bonded but not sealed will ache when separated. Sealed will always feel each other regardless of distance. Dante processed this, running his fingers through Kira's white blonde hair. How do we seal it? Exchange of essence in all directions. We have given you ours. You'll need to give us yours. It's intimate, vulnerable. Are you certain this is what you want? You barely know us beyond tonight.
The promise. Dante sat up carefully, the sisters rearranging themselves around him with fluid grace. The studio was still dim, but their combined glow provided all the light they needed. He looked at each of them in turn. Senna with her commanding presence and hidden softness, Rhea with her playful confidence and deep romanticism, Kira with her quiet strength and raw honesty. I know enough, he said firmly. I know you traveled across space with hope in your hearts. I know you were brave enough to be vulnerable with a stranger. I know that in the past few hours I've felt more connected to you three than I felt to anyone in my entire life. And I know that when you leave on your assignment, the thought of you aching because of incomplete bonding makes me want to tear the station apart. That's the bond talking, Senna cautioned, though her eyes shone. We don't want you making this decision based purely on biochemistry. It's not just biochemistry. Maybe the bond helped me recognize it faster, but what I feel is real. You're real. This is real and I want it. All of it. All of you. Rhea grinned and kissed his shoulder. Then let's make it official, trainer. Show us how humans seal their commitments. What followed was different from before. Slower, more intentional, laden with meaning beyond pleasure. Dante loved each of them thoroughly, letting them feel through every touch that he chose this, chose them, wanted them with full awareness and open heart. Their essence flowed over him in waves, but this time when they reached completion, something in his chest cracked open and poured out in response. He couldn't see it the way they could see theirs, but he felt it, warmth flooding out from his core, surrounding them, sinking into their skin. The sisters gasped in unison, their eyes going wide, their skin flaring brilliant. I can feel you, Kira whispered in wonder. Inside me, like you've always been there. Like coming home, Rhea added, her voice thick with emotion. Senna pressed her hand over his heart, then placed his hand over hers. Their lights pulsed together, perfectly synchronized. Life bond sealed. You're ours, Dante Reeves, and we're yours, for as long as stars burn. They made love once more, all four of them together this time, learning how to move as a unit. It was clumsy and perfect, messy and transcendent, exactly what first time should be when genuine feeling underlies the physical. When they finally collapsed in an exhausted heap, the station's artificial dawn was beginning to lighten the viewport. Dante traced idle patterns on whichever sister was closest. He'd lost track of individual bodies in favor of experiencing them as an interconnected whole. What happens now? You have your assignment, I have the studio. How does this work logistically? Our assignment is 3 months, Senna said, her commanding tone softened by satisfaction. Diplomatic escort and cultural consultation. But we have downtime built in, and now that we're bonded, we can apply for family quarters when we return. Larger space, room for 4. You want me to move in with you? Dante asked, surprised by how much the idea appealed. Eventually, Rhea said, or you keep your studio, and we get a place nearby. We're flexible. Kovan bonds don't require cohabitation, just regular connection. We'll figure out what works for all of us. Kira shifted to look at him, her mint green skin still glowing softly. We also need to introduce you to our clan eventually. They'll want to meet the human who captured 3 of their daughters. Fair warning, Kovan families are large and enthusiastic and will absolutely interrogate you about your intentions. Dante laughed, the sound surprising him with its lightness. My intentions are to keep all three of you satisfied and happy for the rest of our very long lives. Think that'll pass muster? It's a start, Sema said with a smile. They spent the remaining hour before the station fully woke talking logistics and dreams. The sisters would leave in 2 days for their assignment. Dante would continue running the studio, but start researching Kovan language and culture. They'd video call daily, and the bond would let them sense each other's emotional states across distance. In 3 months, they'd reunite and begin building their permanent life together. Before they left, Senna pressed something into Dante's palm, a small crystal vial filled with swirling sapphire, lavender, and mint essence, their combined light preserved in stasis. For when you miss us, she explained, wear it close to your heart. We'll feel it. Rhea kissed him thoroughly, leaving a lavender lip print on his jaw that glowed faintly. That mark will last for weeks. Everyone will know you're claimed. Kira hugged him tightly, burying her face in his neck. Thank you for seeing us, for wanting us, for being exactly who we needed. Dante held all three of them close one last time, memorizing the feel of their bodies against his, the scent of their essence, the sound of their synchronized breathing. I'll be counting the hours until you come home. Home, Senna repeated softly, testing the word. I like how that sounds. They left as dawn fully broke, 3 luminous figures walking out into the station's waking crowds. Dante watched them go from his studio doorway, one hand pressed over the crystal vial now hanging against his heart, the other touching the glowing mark on his jaw. The studio was a mess of mats and residual essence, evidence of a night that had changed everything. He should clean it, should shower, should sleep. Instead, Dante pulled up his scheduling system and blocked out 3 months from now, an entire week marked Family Reunion. Then he opened a new browser window and started researching Kovan marriage traditions, clan structures, and how to say I love you in 3 distinct Kovan dialects. The bond hummed warm in his chest, and even across the station he could feel them. Senna's steady confidence, Rhea's bubbling joy, and Kira's quiet contentment. His 3 alien sisters who came to him looking for training and left having found something infinitely more precious. As the first clients of the regular day started arriving, Dante caught his reflection in the mirror. His skin still held traces of luminescence, and the lavender mark on his jaw glowed softly with each heartbeat. He looked different, felt different, like someone who was incomplete without realizing it, and now was finally whole. He smiled at his reflection and got to work, already counting the days until his constellation came home. End.